LSU Odyssey is live. LSU Odyssey is live in the house. Figuratively, realistically, metaphysically, in the house. How's everybody doing? Let's try and get this so it's actually like looking normal. We're having to do this from an iPad. We usually got our laptop. Our laptop has been screwy, folks. It's been screwy for the last little bit. So we had to do I think 3 shows with this iPad setup so far. Not totally enjoying the iPad setup, but we've been enjoying the shows that we have been doing. So it really, I haven't noticed it being an issue until now, where I want it to go sideways. Hasn't slowed down our writing. Hasn't, nothing can really do that. But we are very, very excited to be doing this show today, whether this iPad messes with us or not. I really wish, though, that we had our laptop so we could use some of our visual aids, as we have done many, many, many times in the past. How's everybody doing? LSU baseball is about to kick off the regional opener in the playoffs here. Postseason baseball in Alex Box Stadium. LSU about to kick off against Little Rock. 5:06 Central kickoff. First pitch. Sorry about that. We're so just automatically dialed in talking about football nonstop that when we talk about another sport, sometimes we sound like an idiot or say something stupid like that. But whatever. We love LSU baseball. We don't consider ourselves an expert or consider ourselves someone who covers LSU baseball or whatever. That's not really, we're not going to go there in any way, shape, or form. But what we do is love to watch and love to cheer on the Tigers whenever we can, whenever we know about. The games are nonstop. The games they're always going on. There's always it's never ending with baseball. That's one thing that's just so crazy about the sport, and what I love about baseball so much. But yes, LSU going to be not live in moments. That's why I hate this iPad. Damn. We'll get better. Let's see here. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Oh. What's up, boy? He's coming up from behind me. Oh no, here he comes. Sage, say what's up. He's just eating a bunch of mac and cheese and crackers. Watching his little shows while we try and do a show if possible. Let's try and move away from some of the noise a bit here. Let's see. We got actually a few comments here before we kind of go into the show. Hermload. Lon, love the recent work, homie. Thank you, brother. Thank you, Herman. Oh, shoot. I shouldn't have revealed his name. We just revealed his name, that he's Herman. Oh, my God. Someone's going to go get him. My man, Hermload. I mean, that's like a badass name. That's like, if I were to call myself like a lawn load and a thing, like it's kind of badass in a way. I mean, that doesn't work, lawn load, but Hermload, that works. That's like a load of Herm, like there might be a sexual entendre there. There might be some type of weird vibes there that maybe you just cannot quite get a grip on, but that's fine. That's okay. That's comedy. Thank you so much, brother. Thank you, Herm. We broke the news just a bit ago. Blake Baker had said that, Whit Weeks was really getting close to being 100%. He was seeing him almost every day in the gym, all that stuff, and he said he was close to 100%. And his timeline was he would be 100% by June anyway. That was what, from the beginning Brian Kelly had said. But we received word from closest source possible. Whit Weeks confirmed, cleared 100% for football activities. LSU's leading tackler last year. Just an absolute human missile crisis. Not the Cuban Missile Crisis, a human missile crisis, a heat-seeking missile. This dude flying around the football field. His performance against Ole Miss, that's the best linebacking performance we've seen at LSU since Devin White's been, left the team. And I shouldn't even say left the team. You know what I mean. Got drafted in the top 5. Went and won a Super Bowl for the Buccaneers. Whit Weeks was an absolute freak of nature, an absolute force. He changed games for LSU. He always gave LSU an opportunity to win, and you loved watching him play. You always loved watching this kid play. And that's why his freshman year, when you saw how good he was, you saw how he was helping LSU edge games out on the road against Missouri, early in the season. Arkansas, I believe, was another one. And then you see him benched for Omar Speights coming back, and the whole thing goes to shit again against Ole Miss. Even though they bring Whit off the bench, it just was too little too late. LSU run out of time. The 2023 LSU defense was going to be terrible no matter what. But the fact that you had Whit Weeks on the bench, the fact that you had Harold Perkins lost in a middle linebacker, Mike linebacker type of spot, playing Will or playing Mike, either one. It was so senseless, some of those decisions in 2023. So senseless. So insane. And you wondered if Whit Weeks had played for that squad in 2023, does LSU possibly win a national championship that year? Because think about it here. I know that sounds nuts because that's a team that, they won 9 games until they won a 10th in the bowl game, but 9 games technically in the regular season. But really, Whit Weeks makes that much of a difference. And maybe Blake Baker in his first season, or sorry, not Blake Baker in his first season. I was about to go on to another thought with Blake Baker being forced to play Whit Weeks in his second season. My mind just went ahead for a second, but we'll get to that. But Matt House unthinkably sees something that works defensively for the first time. You would think oh my God, we've been struggling so bad defensively. This freshman is the light that this defense needed. He helps Greg Penn. He helps he helps Harold Perkins. He really is the secret sauce we've been missing here. His speed is able to mask some of those deficiencies at safety. Whatever, the litany goes on. The list of things that Whit Weeks can provide for your defense goes on and on. We didn't use that young man. He was on the sidelines for every time LSU lost. The first time LSU lost a game with Whit Weeks starting a football game for LSU, Texas A&M this last season. LSU went 7-0 with Whit Weeks starting his first 7 games. You heard that correctly. LSU were undefeated in 2023 when Whit Weeks started at linebacker. Michigan with J.J. McCarthy won the national championship that year over one of the worst Alabama teams we've seen in a while. That had to knock Jaden Daniels out of the game with a dirty cheap shot that couldn't cover Kyron Lacey, letting him burn them repeatedly. They could not cover Malik Neighbors. They could not cover Brian Thomas Jr. We knew that going in there, but they couldn't cover Kyron Lacey either. They had the same trouble with Mason Taylor that they had before. They were so afraid of Mason Taylor, they were starting to double him, and guys were getting open because of that. Running lanes were open all of the field for Jaden Daniels because of that. 200 rushing yards for Jaden. I mean, are you freaking serious? Like, they had to knock him out of the game to have any chance. That was a season where if LSU have Whit Weeks in that defensive lineup, they win the national championship. They win the LSU wins a national championship in 2023. Jaden Daniels wins the Heisman because we literally just outscore teams. We probably beat Michigan like 54 to 17. 44 to even like 38-17. Like LSU would edge teams out score-wise, but we would do it in style because it's Jaden Daniels, and he was an incendiary offensive talent. Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr. would score and make big plays at will. At will, you could not cover them. The more difficult the opponent it seemed, the better they got. So, I mean, that was an offense that literally just needed an extra possession a game, and we were talking about Jaden Daniels, national championship and Heisman winner. Not just Jaden Daniels, Heisman winner, what could have been with a title, but oh, what a player. Now he's taken over the NFL, Rookie of the Year, should have been MVP, et cetera, et cetera. You can see we got this, and then we got an old school. This is an old school Washington shirt, so you can tell that we're no bandwagon to being a Washington fan. And there's a lot of old school LSU Odyssey followers who know that we are a real, dual LSU and Washington fan because, LSU Dan is someone who knows that. Anthony, AG, he knows that. There are many of you. A Diesel, my man, he knows that for sure. There's many people who know that my NFL team was always Washington. But oh my god, I look kind of fat from that angle. That's what I hate about this iPad. It's making me look like I'm fat. Am I getting fat? I mean, I only weigh like 170, but man, maybe I need to work out in some of the areas here. Like, holy shit. You know what? I think that's you know what? I think that's something that can only help me. I'm gonna take on that challenge. We got the weights right in there. I'm always exhausted because of this little guy physically, but you know what? I think we're gonna start lifting again. Sculpt the body. I like that. I think we're gonna get back into weightlifting. I think I know exactly what to do. Anyway, we went off on a tangent there, but Whit Weeks is such an important player for LSU. Such an important player for LSU. I really do believe that you can say Harold Perkins is LSU's most dynamic defensive player this year, but I think Whit Weeks is absolutely LSU's most important defensive player. I think safety might be the most important position for LSU defensively this year. Maybe defensive tackle, one of the other. But I think the most important player for LSU defensively is Whit Weeks because he can control everything. He can make plays anywhere on the field. He can make plays. So you get him back ahead of schedule. That's great. But I thought about this. I thought about this very seriously last night. I was thinking, and I was writing, and I was, you know, I got to be honest. I was having a few cigarettes. We're losing that battle, trying to beat the smokes. But we're up writing, smoking, and just having a great time. Talking with Chelsea for a while, but then I was alone, and just like she went to bed, and I was just thinking so much about this LSU team, watching a lot of film, really doing a lot of reading of other people's stuff as well. Things that, is there something I missed? Did somebody else do better reporting than I did and caught something else? Really watching as much, you know, material, interviews, all this stuff. I just wanted to know this team even more than I thought I did. And it really just reinforced kind of what I've been feeling already. But there was something I thought about. There was something I thought about last night that really worried me. Okay. We've got to understand these guys, you're going to have Harold Perkins at star. You're going to have Whit Weeks at the will linebacker. You're going to have Jacobian Guillory, a defensive tackle, from a torn Achilles. You even have, Tamarcus Cooley had an injury this last spring. Sydir Mitchell, it was really nothing. Even though Blake Ruffino and a few other people tried to spin that I tried to say he was carted off and all this BS. We did not say that. We said that Sydir Mitchell had an injury that looked non-serious, but we would have to wait for word on the scans and all that. And of course, the scans came back that he was all good, so it was great. But yeah, another attempt at gaslighting there. But Sydir Mitchell had a little bit of a thing. But here's the thing: that's going to happen in football. But the serious injuries are things we need to worry about, because you have a dude who's going to be your star, like at the star position, and you expect him to be extremely dynamic. You're going to be playing Clemson in week 1 at Clemson. You're going to need everything Harold Perkins has got. Then you have Whit Weeks at the will position, ahead of schedule, recovering from a dislocated ankle and a broken fibula that did require surgery. Okay. And then you also have Jacobian Guillory with the torn Achilles at defensive tackle. So what does that tell me? That tells me that LSU, going into week 1 at Clemson, taking on this Clemson team, are going to have 3 guys that aren't, you can say they're 100% through fall camp or whatever. It does not mean a damn thing until they go out there and play the game. Because football speed, game speed, inside the game speed, it's a whole different thing than scrimmage and all that stuff. Whole different thing. So we won't know absolutely what these guys are going to really give us until that thing is kicked off. I mean, you could say that for any player. I understand. But fall camp, it's just, I really hope they manage these guys' reps. And that's why it's important that we went out and we got the players that we did, have the depth that we did. You have a guy like, if you have to rest Whit Weeks a little bit against Clemson because he's just not fully ready yet, and you don't want to risk a re-injury because he injured 2 places on same leg. It's just crazy. You got to take care of this kid. Even though he's 100% ready for football activity, that still, game speed is a whole different thing. Would you start him tomorrow? No. If it was a national championship, you probably would. If it's against Clemson, a top 5 game, you're going to have to. So my point is, LSU are going to have to come out of the gate swinging with all their big guns, all their guys right there and ready to roll in week 1 on the road at Clemson against maybe not a dual threat quarterback, Cade Klubnik, but someone who will run the football and kill your team running the football. Absolutely kill your team running the football. So, you wonder what's going to go on here, because we're going to need to see something different from this team as far as stopping the run, stopping a running quarterback, dual threat quarterbacks. We will see that all throughout this season. If you have even a wildcat formation, a wildcat package, and a guy who's capable of running that thing reliably on your offense, you're going to see every opponent try and throw that at LSU. Because if you can't stop it, run it. Other teams could stop Marcel Reed. LSU had no chance in hell of stopping Marcel Reed. He came out of absolutely nowhere and just completely ghosted LSU. So my point is, we need to really be careful with these guys and really manage them and really take care of them, so that we don't just lose potentially week 1 on the road at Clemson. Say you lose like a close game in overtime, but then you also have what's happened the last few years too. While you hear the din of an opposition crowd just roaring and celebrating your complete humiliation and destruction, that they're also like almost celebrating the fact that you've got 1 or 2 of your star players down on the ground, completely in agony, writhing in agony, just like injured. And it's always a season-ending injury. Mason Smith inside the Superdome, that comes to mind. Even though that was on home turf, there were so many Florida State fans there. And you could hear them cheering during that part with Mason Smith. They may have clapped when he got up, but they were also cheering the fact that perhaps the number 1 defensive tackle as far as talent on paper in the country, at least in the SEC, was down hurt only 4 plays into the game, and he was looking like he was going to be a force that season. He was going to be an absolute monster that season in 2022. And that was taken from him. That was kind of BS. But it was something I really worried about, and I think it's a real issue. I think it's something LSU fans aren't thinking about. They're not thinking about, we're thinking about going out there and kicking Clemson's ass, going out there for 4 quarters, potentially overtime, and it being a classic game, but LSU finally end the 5-game losing streak of openers, right? There cannot be a 6th loss. There cannot be a number 6. But I'm thinking about, what if LSU get this to a very close game? Guys go down hurt because we're not managing their snaps. We're not actually like making sure these guys can go the full distance of 4 quarters plus overtime, because they've been out for so long. Because game speed, game shape is a whole different thing. And I get it. Other players on our team could go down with injuries in this game, because game speed, game shape, different thing. But those guys aren't coming back from a huge injury. They're not having to like go easy on it during practices, yada, yada, yada. So, point is, I just want to see LSU really make sure that they take care of the health of this team, because just like, LSU's offense being disjointed for another season, the play calling to the execution, all of it being disjointed, or just like LSU secondary not being as big of an upgrade maybe as we thought, or maybe as much as we bought. I think what really could hurt this team as well, once again, is if we don't manage some of these guys come back from injuries and we suffer injuries again. We go, we were lucky Whit Weeks didn't get injured in the middle of the season, because it seemed like we were so snake bitten with injuries that was going to happen. But it did not happen. His first major injury of his career against Baylor, though. That was how snake bitten that team was, that even with Weeks, who had never been injured, gets injured. Like, not to mention his brother had to redshirt the season because he was out for so long with an ankle injury that would just never recover. He just could not recover from this ankle. West. It just kept continuing to get, okay, next week, are you going to be good? Are you going to be good? And Chris Hilton Jr., same thing. So I wonder if there is an issue in how we're having our players recover. Is there an issue in the physical preparation of the team? Because this is we've got to talk about this as well. Brian Kelly goes on Paul Finebaum's show. And he says this is the best roster we've ever had. I tend to agree. Talent-wise on paper, you could argue 2023, but defensively just so bad that it makes you almost shudder. So you're like, no. But Brian Kelly says this is the best roster we've ever had. And of course, the quote makes the rounds, like all these, you've always got these people just lining up. Want some barbecue chips? You've always got these people lining up, ready to quote anything Brian Kelly says about anything, like it is literally the Pope himself has like handed down a decree. It's quite hilarious, to be honest. But almost like sycophant in a way. And I get it, he's the head coach of LSU football. I understand that. Some of it is like a complete waste of, like, is this really news that he said we have a great roster? Is this really a big deal? But here's the thing. Here's why I think it is a big deal. Because I was laughing at it too. I saw Stephen Miller's post. My dude, Stephen Miller, I love this guy. He's like, everyone's saying it's big news, breaking news, that a coach says we've got a great team. And it's like, I get what he's saying. But that doesn't need to be reported, because later on, if he has some type of excuse, if things do not work out this year and he has some type of excuse of we were lacking the players needed, or we needed more NIL funds, or if he goes that direction, which he has before, and he's done it subtly, and a lot of it, what he said at the time, was true. But now he can't go for that. He can't go for that excuse. So reporting it is kind of in a way like, we're going to hold you accountable to the words that you say later on if this goes that way. But I'm telling you right now, whether LSU win or lose to Clemson almost won't affect how Brian Kelly is seen this season. It's not going to do a damn thing. Of Brian Kelly can't win a title at LSU if we lose a close game against Clemson. If we lose on the road in overtime, 33-30, 34-31 type of game. Some awesome shootout, Nussfire, Klubnik, just complete mano-a-mano battle. The defenses both make some plays, but the offenses are just too good, like what happens usually in modern football. If we see that type of game, and LSU do look like a top 10 team, they come out there ready to kick some ass, I can accept a loss, because nowadays you can lose 2 games and still even compete in an SEC championship game, and you're going to have no qualms, no problems getting into the college football playoff, right? Maybe be at the back half of the rankings, but it's all good. You get in there, LSU can win, survive, and advance. I love the idea of LSU going into a postseason, environment, because LSU are so good in these things, and making it more extended is just, I think, in favor for LSU. Obviously, you don't want to play some 10-game tournament for a title. 3-4 games. Okay, that makes sense. But any more than that, I think we're getting a little too crazy. But this is a team that Brian Kelly has said many times. I sat a few feet away from him when Brian Kelly said, I didn't prepare my team. I didn't prepare my team to go out there and win. or some variation of that. My team wasn't prepared. My team wasn't prepared. My team wasn't prepared. I remember looking at that yesterday. I'm literally watching the press conference of the USC game. I was literally right on the front row, feet in front of Kelly, banging the fist. I mean, it was just crazy. And he didn't look like he felt well. I think Brian Kelly was sick. In fact, a source told us like maybe 20 minutes after that press conference, because I brought it up, like he looked off, like physically. He looked exhausted. They mentioned to me that he was traveling for that whole thing, sick as well. Being sick in the desert, not fun, not fun. Especially when you're from Massachusetts. You've been moved down to the south. You're trying to get used to the heat there. Now you go out to the. I mean, it was like 108 at night, at like 2 a.m. It was crazy in Vegas. So, I think Kelly was sick as well. But here's the thing: whether Kelly's sick, whether guys get injured, whether any unforeseeable circumstance, I don't care anymore. We cannot have the excuses for Brian Kelly anymore. Brian Kelly simply has to win a championship or come close to that this season, or the season won't be a success. You don't win 10 games with this team, you can't win a championship, and you won't win a championship at LSU. LSU has invested significant amounts of money into this team. LSU has invested more than they ever have in a single transfer portal for these guys in the winter and then in the spring, which included some of, or as I've heard, the highest paid transfers in LSU history, which you think of that and you're thinking $5 million, $3 million. It really doesn't have to be that much to be the highest paid transfer in LSU history. Look at the numbers. Okay. And I'm not talking about how much we paid to get Jaden Daniels in 2022 or how much that, I mean, that's how much we'd be talking about, is like how much we paid to get Jaden Daniels in 2022, not how much we paid to retain him to come back in 2023. It's how much we in the portal we paid guys since 2021 is when those stats would be. LSU have put so much on the line to have this opportunity. They've aligned so much here to make this happen. I just have a feeling that unless LSU lose in the harshest of circumstances and have like the most egregious refereeing calls go against them, like, even that, because some of these games should not be close games. You should kill these teams off. And that's another thing. These Kelly teams don't have the physicality. They don't seem to have the aggression. They don't seem to have the killer instinct. The ability to kill a team off. They have the ability to come back in games, but they don't have the ability to kill teams off. And so if we see all of these things again, it's a trademark at this point. It's 4 seasons. It's a trademark at this point. If it continues. But I think Brian Kelly knows that this place, they're a little more serious about their football than he thought, than he maybe understood. They're a little more invested and a little more interested in what happens for LSU football, LSU sports. More than, say, in Notre Dame, more than, say, in Michigan. I'm talking about the state of Michigan, not the University of Michigan. This is the South where sports are king. And this is LSU, where LSU, this is the state of Louisiana, where LSU is king. And Brian Kelly simply has to cash in when he has all of the alignment here. Coach O talked about putting the fence around Louisiana and could not do it. As many great players as he recruited, and was, you cannot argue that Coach O is one of the greatest recruiters of all time. It's just obvious that he is. He still could not put the fence around Louisiana. Okay. Brian Kelly's done that with Frank Wilson, Cortez Hankton, Sherman Wilson, Jordan Arcemont. I mean, the list goes on of guys who've been so, Cortez Hankton, so many guys have been so instrumental and key in establishing that moat around the state of Louisiana. He's had that alignment. He has a unbelievable staff. I mean, if you were to tell people that we had Brad Davis coaching our O-line for all 4 years under Kelly and 1 under Coach O, we would actually keep Brad Davis for 5 years. Yeah. You're like, we better be having, a top 5 picks. We better be having this type of stuff. And you're starting to see that. You got Corey Raymond back. And with that, your DBs already look like they're going to be better. And they already performed a lot better last year. Ashton Stamps led the SEC in pass breakups, even though he had a pretty tough season where he didn't really get a lot of love his way. Didn't really get an interception. Had a few touchdowns caught on him, but gave up some big plays. But man, he was able to hang in there and kind of battle, which is what Corey Raymond really instills. So across the board, I think you've got the alignment of great players now that you've had the money invested. You've got that staff. You've got depth even. You've got a ton of youth on this team, a ton of bottomless youth talents on this team. Bottomless. Okay. But you've also got the veteran transfer pieces in certain spots. You've got the second-year quarterback, a dude who put up more yards in his first year than any LSU quarterback in year one. So theoretically, okay, I mean, well, first, not theoretically, Garrett Nussmeier had the greatest season of any first-year starting quarterback in LSU history. That's undeniable. The numbers prove that, and everything else does. 2, theoretically, Garrett Nussmeier, if you go by that, shouldn't he have the best second year of any LSU quarterback? I mean, think about what would have to happen to make that happen. Nussmeier winning a national championship, a Heisman Trophy, all of the awards that Joe Burrow did, eclipsing Joe Burrow records. I mean, I don't know, because the way Joe Burrow did it all, not just what Joe Burrow did, but the way Joe Burrow did it all, that's really, to me, what is the magic of Joe Burrow. And that's going to take some topping. Jaden Daniels, the same thing. It's the way Jaden Daniels did these things. It's the doubters he silenced. The amount of people who were just completely shitting on Jaden Daniels for so long. And in the end, were literally on their knees. I mean, just incredible what Jaden Daniels did. Divides the fan base and then conquered it. And so Nussmeier, for me, I mean, he's had the doubters. He's had the Joe Burrow-esque waiting a long time, the patience and all that stuff, having to really hang in there and wait his turn. But I just some water, buddy. I just really want to see Brian Kelly actually cash in on what this team is capable of. I don't want to see Harold Perkins leaving LSU without a championship ring on his finger. I don't want to see Whit Weeks leaving LSU without a ring on his finger. That goes for his brother too. I should say his brothers. Now there's 3. You know, Garrett Nussmeier should not be leaving LSU without some type of honors. He's been a part of some great teams before, but really, man, like he deserves to be really waiting his turn, taking his time in an era where that's just not. It's not just rare; it just doesn't. Quarterbacks like Nussmeier are going extinct. He's probably the last of his kind. He's a rare breed, Garrett Nussmeier, in that respect. But it's so beautiful because LSU have invested in him by making him one of LSU's top earners of all time, NIL-wise, but also giving him the upgrades around him, the coaching continuity. I mean, Joe Sloan and Garrett Nussmeier have been in the same room now, quarterbacks coach, since 2022, 2023, 2024. 2 seasons as a backup, 1 season as a starter. There are no excuses for a disjointed offense, no excuses for disjointed play calling. There are no excuses for anyone to be failing this season for LSU. There is a thin line between winning and losing. But there is a big difference between success and failure. Okay? And we know failing when we see it. We will accept 10-win season as long as you get in the playoffs and make a deep run. We can accept some close losses, some damn good performances. LSU come up short. LSU fight and absolutely brawl and just come up short. That happens. We understand that. But I won't accept LSU going out there and getting absolutely railroaded, absolutely trained like Will Smith's wife at the bachelor party. You know, it's a little like, oh, what has happened to LSU against UCLA at the Rose Bowl against Mike Leach's, rest in peace, Mississippi State, and KJ Costello throwing for over 600 yards on us. That's not because of Costello. That's because of Mike Leach just understanding LSU could not cover this. Boom, 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 boom. Don't stop throwing it short, throwing it over the middle, destroy him. (2022-2023) Mike Norvell's Florida State Seminoles, a team that should have probably been in the playoff and got just barely, they got snubbed. And they barely survived with a blocked PAT in one game, and then they absolutely throttle and demolish LSU in the other one. But and then last year, a close game in Vegas that I witnessed personally from very good seats in the press box, watching that game. Whit Weeks only played 26 snaps, and he was by far LSU's most impressive defensive player, even more so than Savion Jones, who had 2 sacks in that game. Whit almost had a pick. He was all over the place, and the fact that he was not in that game more was why LSU gave up a bunch of rushing yards and passing yards at the end of that game. Why Blake Baker was not playing Whit Weeks until Harold Perkins was injured makes 0 sense. And that should bother you. But Blake Baker, you know, he can fix that this season by making the right decisions and letting the pieces fall like they should have. Harold Perkins, you've got to have him and Whit Weeks on the field at the same time, but you cannot play Perkins at linebacker. Great. Put him at star, and now you can put in West Weeks alongside his brother Whit, or Davon Keys alongside Whit. Both of them had a great partnership at the end of last season. But it was alarming that it took until a torn ACL for Harold Perkins for Whit Weeks to play over 25 snaps a game for LSU. And that was not when Matt House was our defensive coordinator. That was with Blake Baker. But things happen for a reason. Things have been figured out. We really just need to be careful with our guys, careful with our stars going into this season opener. Really manage their reps. No more re-injuries. Get these guys, though, accustomed to the hitting. Get these guys accustomed to the tackling more. As we reported throughout spring, they were tackling so much more. They're hitting so much more. And then Blake Baker confirmed that when he was talking with Jacob Hester on off the bench. And you get a good feeling that, okay, if LSU continue to practice the hitting and tackling more, finally, maybe we won't get punched in the mouth in one of these opening games. Because that's the thing. Whether it was a close loss against USC, close loss to Florida State, or the 10-point loss to Mississippi State, or getting bludgeoned by Florida State again, or the complete bludgeoning by UCLA, LSU got physically dominated by the opponent. Against USC, you saw LSU a lot better, probably the best, most aggressive defense we've seen from LSU in an opener since 2019. And they still got thrown for over 300 yards on the defense, and we lost. But so much better, improved in every respect with those type of things. If you take this next step this year, I don't think that just necessarily guarantees you a victory over Clemson. I think you have to take that big step. I think you have to take that championship step, right? I think with those edge guys, Patrick Payton, Jamari Butler, Jack Pyburn, maybe those guys can be the difference for LSU. Because here's the thing. Last year, everyone said, oh, LSU didn't didn't sack the quarterback enough in 2023. And then didn't really talk about the fact that LSU only had 3 more sacks than we did in 2023 last year. Just 3 more sacks. Still very, very low, 32 to 35. So if we can get massive improvement there, and there's 24 and a half career sacks just from the 3 transfer edge rushers that we brought in. 24 and a half career sacks from Pyburn, Butler, and Peyton combined. And if you see Gabriel Elliford go off, you get some more pressure and some help from edge rushing from Harold Perkins as well in those situations. You have 2 safeties who can lock it down in the back with Halsey and Cooley. You may be onto something here this season. You really may be onto something here this season. Because I'm telling you, if LSU have a top 25 defense this year, and we don't win the national championship because our offense is still disjointed at times, our offense can't score in the red zone at times when it matters most, I'm going to lose it, man. If it's our offense, after all we've been talking about, this defense is going to take the next step, this defense, if the O-line isn't worth a shit, if we can't run the ball once again for another year under Brian Kelly, man, it might be time to close up shop then. Like I said, these things will become trademarks eventually. Or they'll get turned around. Well, everybody, Anthony Ianson starting tonight. Little Rock are going to get their ass kicked. Go Tigers, baby. Thank you for watching, everybody. And, I don't I'll talk about Les Miles, the Hall of Fame, next time. I'll talk about Les Miles, the Hall of Fame, next time. I don't. Yeah. Anyway, thank you all for watching. You guys are awesome. Go Tigers. We're going to kick some ass tonight. And LSU, we're going to go on a deep run here with Jay Johnson once again. Thank you, guys.